Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Good turnip rate today. So thank you for taking time off your day to be here with us today. We really appreciate it. And I think another reason probably for this good turnip rate is the constant attacks and breaches that we get to witness on a day-to-day basis on our networks in one form or another. So what I would like to do today is talk about how we can tighten security against these cyber threats with multi-factor authentication, right? So before we get into that, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Shree, that's S-R-E-E, and I'm from the customer support team of AD Self-Service Plus. And I'll also be a host for the afternoon. Now, before I go any further, I would like to quickly ensure that I'm audible and that the display is clear. If otherwise, if you guys are having a problem, please let us know through the chat box, and we'll try and fix it so you guys have an uninterrupted webinar experience. I'll give you guys a minute to settle down and let me know through the chat box about the audio and the display. Thank you. Come on, you guys, don't be shy. Let me know if you can see the display and if you can hear me okay. There we are. We have a few responses. Jeremy, thank you. And Firoz, thank you so much for confirming. Appreciate it. Andy, thank you so much. And welcome, you guys. All right. And we have one more surprise for you this afternoon. What we did is we set up a fully working AD self-service environment for the uninitiated. Managed Engine AD Self-Service Plus is the password self-service and the single sign-on solution. It does a lot more, but we'll come on to that later. So for you, this is for you guys to follow us, try and set up what we do, and experience AD Self-Service Plus firsthand. And I'll be posting the URL to get to this environment and the credentials in the chat box for you to get onto it and explore AD Self-Service with us. So happy exploring. credentials to log into that URL so you can explore AD self-services with us. We hope you have a good learning experience with that. And with that, let's jump on to the agenda for the day. That's our plan for today. We'll be talking about enforcing two-factor authentication for Windows logons. Now, you might ask, why here? Why at the login screen? Now, the reason for that is very simple. That's because that's the gateway into your network. You and I start our day there, and if there's a threat to your network, we at AD Self-Service Plus want to stop it right there on its tracks. So that's why we'll be starting with that today. And then with that, we'll be moving on to how you can secure or enable two-factor authentication for several popular applications you have, like a 365, Salesforce, and IBM. And then from there, we'll be talking about how you can not just put on two-factor authentication for Windows Logon, but also how you can go on about securing Windows password resets and unlock accounts with multi-factor authentication. And we don't stop there either. The next thing we'll be doing is we'll be digging in more, and we'll be talking about granularly enforcing multi-factor authentication based on specific OUs or groups in Active Directory. And then, like we finally talked about initially, we don't just stop at Windows two-factor authentication or providing you granular access at the OU or the group level. We want to dig in more, and we want to protect your on-prem and cloud applications by offering them two-factor authentication too. So exciting day, a lot of stuff to do before we get started. Oh, there's a request. Let's see what that is. Firoz asks, can we make it full screen? Of course. Firoz, thank you. And like this, feel free to use the chat box. There you go. I hope that's better. Fantastic. All right, so that's the agenda for the day, like we talked about. A lot of exciting stuff ahead to do, starting with enforcing two-factor for Windows logons. Let's get on right to that. All right, so talking about two-factor authentication for Windows logons, let me show you how you would normally go about your day, getting onto your computer, logging in, and then we'll talk about what difference happens when you set up two-factor authentication, right? So when you normally start your day, looks similar to this. You put on your username and password, and then you hit OK, and then it tries to connect. I'm sorry, guys, I'm on Wi-Fi, so there might be a little delay in getting connected to things and in things opening up. There you go. So you just put in, this is your regular stuff. So you get onto your desk, you put in your username and your password, and then there you go. You get right onto your desktop, nothing in between. Now, we want to change that. This is exactly what we're talking about. We want to put in some sort of an authentication right between where you put in the password and where the desktop comes in, right? That's two-factor authentication. That's what we want to do. And that's exactly what we'll be doing today using AD Self-Service Plus. Here you go. This is AD Self-Service Plus for you. Now, as you can see, I'm logged in. I'm logged in as the admin, and I've set up or configured my domain that I would be working with. I don't want to dig into that and tell you how all that is set up. More on that later, but we'll jump in and get straight to it. So the way AD Self-Service Plus works is you configure policies, and what these policies are is essentially just letting the system know what kind of access your users would be having. For instance, this policy that I've picked, HR, has these privileges. The users in the HR policy have these privileges. They can reset password, they can unlock account, they can update their own information, like their phone number, email address, that kind of stuff, and then they can change their password. Now, what users can do it? That's selected here based on OUs and groups right here. And just to give you some clarity, what I've done is this is my OU right here, right? And I've set up um, a few OUs to mimic an organizational structure that you might have at your office, and I'll call them admin, HR, and finance, right? And that's what you're looking at right here. So I've chosen the OU HR, which means everybody in this OU is selected, and these guys have these privileges. And when I say give it a name and I save it, that becomes a policy, and it's used everywhere else in AD Self-Service Plus. Right. So the first thing that you want to do is get on here. You see the gears? You want to click on it. And then there's this option called Login Two-Factor Authentication, Login TFA right here. You click on it, and you want to make sure that this is enabled, right? So you want to make sure that this is enabled, and whatever whatever two-factor authentication method that you chose to go with, you want to make sure that this is selected here. Now, today we'll be going with Duo because that's the most trending right now, to put in those words. So I've chosen Duo, and then I've said OK, right? And I've selected Duo for my two-factor authentication. Now, as soon as I did that, right, I'll show you how that changes the way the user logs in and puts more security in the hands of the administrator. Let's do this again, right? Now a user would be logging in again, and this time, let's see what changes. All right, it's thinking. And there you go. So what's changed between last time and now is as soon as I put my password in, last time it took me right in. There was nothing in between. So if somebody had hacked your network or somebody had figured out your password, because we are people, we use common passwords like password 123 or your dog's name, your birthday, anything at all. I mean, if people guessed it and if they had your password now, they'd be in your network. But with AD Self-Service Plus two-factor authentication enabled, even if they had your password, like now, they would put it in, and that's how far they're going to be getting. So remember when I set up the two-factor authentication, what I did is I enabled Duo to work as my two-factor authenticator, and looks like slowly but surely it's coming up. There it is. So what do I want to do? Send me a push, call me, or enter passcode. This time, let's go with the passcode. I'm looking at my Duo app right now. It's showing a bunch of numbers. I'm just going to type it in. And I want to say log in. And if those numbers, if they're right, if I cleared the Duo authentication, it's going to let me right in. Now, remember, guys, even if they figured out the password, they're not going to have this information because Duo is something that you have installed on your phone. So it's an app that you have installed on your phone, and it takes you right in. So that's right here. That's the kind of setup I'm talking about. Multi-factor authentication. Even if somebody gets your password, they're not going to get in because there is another layer of protection taking care of what's important. Okay, I want to show this to you once again, right? This time we'll be using a different user from this group. Let's say John. I'm going to say connect again. Say John, put in my password. And I've done that, and I'll hit OK. Usually, sorry to be repeating this, but I want to make sure that you see how awesome it is. So usually you'll be going right through, but not when you have two-factor authentication enforced. It's going to stop you right there on your track and ask you, hey, there is a layer of security that's involved, and you have to clear it before you're going anywhere. Come on. All right, there it is. All right, so doors come up, and this time, instead of putting in a passcode, I'm thinking I'm going to get a push notification, right? Okay, this is going to be fast, so I would request your attention here for a second. So send me a push, and the push has come up on my screen. I'm going to say, okay, that's me, and logged right in. It's a success logging you in. Simple as that. There. Got me straight through. Isn't that awesome? See? Logged in as John. Want to log out? Okay, Firoz has a question there. Firoz, thank you. Let's see what he has to ask. The page is taking time to open up. Is that common? Because 5 seconds is acceptable. Firoz, not sure if you heard me before. This is because I'm on Wi-Fi and my Wi-Fi seems to be acting up. Now, this is a pretty instant process. This is, as soon as you put that in, it's right through. It's like logging onto your computer. There's no delay, maybe of a few seconds or a millisecond, but not more than that. Firoz says, perfect. Thank you, Firoz. Happy to answer your question. So, like we were talking about, that's how easy it is to enable the login two-factor authentication and set it up for Windows. And with that, it gives you multiple options too. You don't have to get stuck with Duo. If you use RSA secure tokens, those small tokens that you have, you can use those. You can use Duo like I did. If you guys use Radius authentication, that's another option that you guys have. And then another favorite would be sending a verification code. Sending a verification code to your email or to your phone number and verifying that way. Whatever way works for you, we have you covered. So these are your options here, and you can choose any one of them to act as a second layer of protection when you're logging onto your Windows. All right. So we saw how that went down. Now let's see how you can actually set this up, right? So there are a few things that you want to keep in mind when you're enabling or when you're working with two-factor authentication, and I'm going to walk you through them right now. Hey, here's another question. Let's see if you can answer this for me. So we got onto the Duo page, right? What if someone hits cancel there? What happens then? Do you guys know? Let's see if you guys can answer me. So yeah, this person has two-factor authentication. I'm going to put the password in. Password at 123. Go right in. All right, guys. If when Duo comes up, if I cancel, what's going to happen? Any guesses? What if I don't want to put Duo in? What if I cancel? What happens then? Come on, Firoz. I know you're at the keyboard typing something. what happens if I just close out this box? Any guesses, you guys? All right, there is someone. Andy guessed it. It won't log in, of course. That's the whole point, right? So you're right, Andy. Cancel it, and there it is. That is the message. It says you must complete both steps of authentication to log in. Please try again. So yes, like Andy guessed, you're not going anywhere in the network. So just cancel that out, and you're out. That's all. You're not going anywhere. All right, coming back. We were talking about setting the whole thing up. See how this worked, right? Let me show you. So you saw how I initially went in to the advanced option of the desired policy. If this is the policy, excuse me, guys. If this is the policy I want two-factor enabled on, I clicked on the advanced option, click on Login TFA, and enable it. Now that's one part of it, or the first step. Call it the first step. And then once you've done that, right, you want to come back out. Go here under Administrative Tools, and here under GinaMac. Click on GinaMac and go under GinaMac Installation. And you want to make sure that the machine that you're working with has Gina installed, right? Here it is, Gina installed. So it needs Gina to bring that pop-up and show you Duo or whatever other authentication method that you've set up. To make sure that comes up, you want the GinaMac installed on the machines. So your machine will show up here, all you got to do, and it's going to be done from the portal. So you just got to select the machine and hit install, and like this. So just got to select the machine and hit install, and it's going to be installed here, and it's going to show here. Next thing that you want to do is, here's the main option, Windows Logon TFA. It's right here when you logged in as an admin. You go to Configuration, Administrative Tools to your left, GinaMac, and Windows Logon TFA. When you click on it, here are the options. Enable Windows Logon TFA. You want to make sure that is checked, and then bypass TFA if AD Self-Service Plus is down. So that's another question I wanted to ask you. Based on what you decide, how important your security is, you can either bypass the TFA if AD Self-Service Plus is down. If not, leave that checked or unchecked. And then this only works on machines Windows Vista and above. So if your operating system is below Vista, then it's time to upgrade. And if not, you're going to be fine. And I already told you about this. You need to have the Gina installed to get this going, and you want to make sure that SSL is enabled. So that's the Windows Logon TFA option that we talked about. How you can enable it, how this works, how the whole thing puts in an extra layer of security right in there and makes everything secure. All right. That's what we saw right now. Usually you put in your username and password, go right through, but this time we put in something in between as a layer of security so that even if your password gets out, nobody gets in anywhere. Okay, Firoz has another question. If AD self-service application is down, then how do we disable the TFA option? Now that's a good question, Firoz. So let's say if you had AD self-service plus or this option enabled and this unchecked, and your AD self-service goes down, then we have other means of getting into the application. And we'll be going in through the database and disabling that for you. We have you covered there as well. First, does that answer your question? Okay, great. Okay, moving on. Next thing we'll be talking about is now. Now, what we did is we have secured your Windows logon with two-factor authentication, right? Now, you might think, why do I have to secure my password reset or account unlock too, right? Because everybody gets in through that gateway, and I've secured that, and I don't see a need to secure my password reset. I'm talking about this point right here. Why would I secure my password resets and account unlocks with multi-factor authentication? I have a reason for that too, and I'll be happy to explain that to you. Before, okay, Firoz has another question. So it means database needs to be installed on another server, not where. Yes, you do have an option to that as well. That's right, Firoz. All right. So moving on, we'll be talking about why we'll be securing self-service password resets and account unlocks. Now, like we talked about, passwords are very fragile. So much so that hackers think, or hackers know, that the passwords are the easiest and the fastest way to get into your network. Now that's a little bit hard to digest, isn't it? I got some facts for you. Um, let me show you. Let me throw at you some numbers, and maybe that would make sense. Now, some numbers and facts. Give that a good look, guys. Give that a very good look. Now, one thing I want to tell you is this is not something that I made up. This is not my research. Now, I'm not sure how many of you guys had an opportunity to be at Microsoft's Ignite event some days ago, but I had the opportunity, and this is right from Microsoft. This is not from me. This is directly from Microsoft. If you're reading that right, 279% increase in security incidents on the enterprise level from 2016 to 2017. Now, you might think why you're looking at old data, because 2018 is still on and incidents are still counting. So that's why we're looking at something that we already have a number at. So 279%, can you believe that? And of this, 81% of hacking related breaches were with stolen or weak passwords. 81%. I'm not kidding. And enterprises spend about 20% of support costs on forgotten passwords. So what I'm saying is, we have you. What if I told you we have you covered on all these fronts? There's nothing you got to worry about. We have you covered on all of these. This is exactly why you need to secure your password resets and account unlocks, because, like I said, passwords are fragile. Let me take you back. Let me show you how that's done. So we'll go back to configuration, self-service, and multi-factor authentication. There we are. Now, what you're looking at is the options we have available for you to use as multi-factor authentication when you're doing password resets or account unlock. That's correct. We have, starting from the personal favorite and the default, security question and answers, like if you forget or you get locked out, you can answer a few questions and it's going to let you in. Starting from there, the verification code, we talked about this, sending you a verification code to your email or your phone number and you verifying that way. Or the more trending and the new ones, Google Authenticator. If you use Microsoft Authenticator, or Google Authenticator or Duo Security, we have you covered there as well. And then we have the RSA one. We talked about this, the RSA soft tokens. We have that covered as well. And going old school, we have covered radius authentication as well. If you want to use radius authentication, please know you're covered. And then mobile authenticator, that's a native app that we have from AD Self-Service Plus. You can use that to get things done. And then we have SAML authentication. If you use these SAML providers, Okta or OneLogin, or even a custom SAML application, you can reset password or unlock account by successfully authenticating against these. And then finally, this is a new edition using which you can use 80 attributes, right? 80 security questions, and user can authenticate against them. Like you might want to choose something that's personal to you, like your any 80 attribute that's something that you would know, and you choose that, and you can use that to authenticate, or reset password or unlock accounts as well. So what I wanted to show you is how this thing works. Admin, finance, what do I want to do? Admin. Okay. Let's try something. I'm going to open up another window, get right on there, and try and do a password reset and show you how this works. And again, you guys, I'm sorry about the wait. This usually doesn't take this long. I am blaming the Wi-Fi. So reset password right here. So these are the options available: reset and unlock account, reset password. So you put in your username, and then choose the right domain, hit continue, and then there it is. A second factor of authentication, like I said. So this one personally would be sending out a verification code. Let's try another one. Oh, here's another one. So I put it in, and this one gives me multiple options. Like, do you want to? It is asking me if I want to verify my security question and answer, or if I want to get a verification code, or if I want to use Duo. I am going to go with Duo. Let's see how that works out. And you have CAPTCHA here as well. That's to keep out the bots. It's an optional security setting that you have. If it's not something that you would prefer, you can take it off. It's just on here as added security. So right now, what I want to do, or what I've decided to do, is use Duo to verify myself, because it is something that I can do from my phone, So hit continue, and then it's the same thing that you saw. It's going to pop up the Duo screen, and then give me the options that I want. This time, let's say, call me. So it's trying to call my phone, and I'm waiting for the call. There it is. The call came in. I'm going to do exactly that. Just press any key on the phone. And like you saw, it took me right in to reset my password. That's as simple as it gets. Okay, we seem to have questions. Let's get on to the questions, see what we have. Okay, so we have two. Firoz is asking, is the Manage Engine native free? Firoz, I'm thinking you're asking about the phone app, and yes, it is. And the mobile authenticator, it works with the Microsoft Authenticator and Google as well. So if you have any of those, it works with them also. I hope I answered your question there for us. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So what we just saw is how you can put on two-factor authentication for your Windows login, and then also hand in hand how you can secure your password resets and account unlocks as well. The next thing we'll be looking at is how you can granularly enforce multi-factor authentication based on specific OUs and groups. That would be this guy right here. Now, what we did is we broke it down even more to a granular level, or in AD terms. We gave you the ability to enforce these multi-factor authenticators at an OU or a group level. Let me show you how this works. For that, I'm going to have to take you back to the policies. Now, these are the three policies that I've created for you: the HR, admin, and finance. The reason I did that is I was trying to mimic an organizational structure that you might see in your company, and that the AD. Excuse me, you guys. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm having a bad throat day. All right. So what I did there is what you're looking at is me trying to split up these OUs uh, to mimic or to replicate an organizational structure. And that's exactly what I've done there. This is my organizational structure. I have three OUs, one for the admin, one for finance, and one for HR. And I made three policies for one each. And I've given them different abilities. The same. So based on these groups, you can increase or decrease a security, putting in multi-factor authenticators as you desire. Let me explain. Now, if you go into the HR part of it, right, I have different multi-factor authenticators included for the HR. What I could do, excuse me, guys. All right, so what I'm getting at is for different of these policies, for each policies, you can have a different level of security. So you can make sure that in this policy, for the HR policy, if these guys are important, we can make sure that these guys have to go through a string of multi-factor or multi-factor authenticators before they get through. You can make these options mandatory, as in they have to clear these options before you get in. For example, if I wanted to, I could say I want to make Duo, and what else do I have? Security question answers mandatory. So if someone goes to do something like a password reset, they would have to clear the security question and answers, and then they would also have to clear Duo security before they can get anything done. And I can also make sure, or I can also ensure that the order this comes up in. If I want something in a particular order, like first I want Duo, and then I want them to answer the security questions, I can make that happen. Let me try and show you this, right? So I've made both these mandatory, which means they would have to do both of these. And I've said okay. HR. Yep. And I've said okay, and I've saved the settings. Everything is done. Now, if I go to reset my password, like clockwork, let me go through that. I'm going to use this push notification this time. Waiting for the push. There it is. And I approve. So that clears it. And as you saw, now it's bringing me to the mandatory security questions. Now, if I don't answer this, if I hit cancel, I'm going to show this to you. It's going to sign me out. It's not going to let me do it. Let's go through this one more time. So the way I've set it up is duo first, and then the security question and answers. And I would have to clear both of these to reset my password. Approved. Now I'm going to have to answer these security questions. Put in the CAPTCHA. FHR. Hit continue. And only then, as you saw, it lets me reset my password. So based on the OUs or the groups that people are in, you can increase or decrease security, as I was saying. So if I go back there and I say, these are not mandatory, only Duo is, and I save, and then I come back here. So this is expected, this is Duo, this is what I wanted as mandatory, and I said, okay. Lets me right in, no question and answers that time. So based on what I want, for different policies, for different teams, I can have increased or moderate security like I want. And as an administrator, that's something that you cannot put a price on. And finally, that brings me to the final option of today's webinar, which is enabling two-factor authentication for applications like Office 365 or Salesforce or IBM AS400. Now, let me show you how this works. Right. Now, with AD Self-Service Plus, the tool that you're looking at, it is just not a self-service password reset tool or a single sign-on solution. It does a lot more, right? It does a lot of things, and it does them well. So single sign-on and password sync is one of the options that you have, and you can make sure that you set up single sign-on. For single sign-on, we have about 109 applications that you can set up single sign-on with, and what that would mean is your user just has to remember his or her Windows credential, right? And then using that credential, he can log on to everything that's set up for that user. Let me show you an example. Usually, I hope I typed the password in right. Let's find out. I think I did. Okay. Now, usually this is how it works. So you put in the username, password, and you'll write through. And these are the applications that we've set up for you. And this is how where the user would come and click on these applications to get onto those portals, right? If single sign-on is set up, then the user will just come in here, click on this application, and the application launches up. Now, once you have multi-factor authentication set up, this turns into a whole different thing. So, password. Now, this user, I think, has multi-factor authentication set up. Let's find out. And he does. Now, as you saw, even if somebody, the last time I was at an event, I was told setting up single sign-on didn't sound like a good option for them, because if somebody had compromised their password, if their password was compromised, they thought that they would have access to everything. When I say that, I mean the application is configured for single sign-on. Everything is vulnerable. And I told them that's not really the case. Even if the password, I hope that doesn't happen, but even if the password is compromised, we can still set up. That's exactly what multi-factor authentication is for. You set up multi-factor authentication and you get that extra peace of mind. Like right now, I'm typing in my username, and even if somebody had my password and tries to get in, they still have to clear this, the dual security or the question or answer or the RSA, whatever I have set up for multi-factor authentication. They would have to go past that to get anywhere into my account and access those single sign-on applications that I've set up for myself, right? And without this, they're not going anywhere. So say if it was really me and if I was trying to get in, all I had to do is just put those numbers in and hit log on, and it would take me right in. And all I got to do is just come back here, click on here, and as you saw, it is taken care of. So not only does it put a extra layer of security after the password, it takes care of everything else as well. So that brings us to the end of today's session. Now, before we end our day, I have a few more things that I want to tell you or share with you. One of those things would be some resources that we have put together so you can better understand AD Self-Service Plus. I mean, after going through this, and when you sit back and look through this, you might have questions. And when that happens, I want you to go here, go into adselfserviceplus.com, hit enter, and that's going to bring you to our AD Self-Service Plus page right there. And then there's this available for you to have a look at. For example, this admin guide, this has everything right from downloading it, configuration, setting it up, explaining the host of features. Everything that you want is explained here and is explained here in detail. So everything that you want to know, everything that we support, it's taken care of here. Other than that, we also have a bunch of white papers that you guys can go through. We have a constantly updated knowledge base that would, if you already use AD Self-Service Plus, it would help you solve a lot of problems right there. So that's there. And then finally, that brings us to the support tab. Now, even if you continue to have questions, we do have a dedicated 24/5 support team that can answer your questions, help you take care of any doubts, any configuration settings, anything at all. If you have a feature request, you can leave it here. You can request support, put in a request for a demo. If you'd like us to give you a personalized demo, please fill this form and we'll be happy to walk you through the entire features of AD Self-Service Plus, let you know what it does and how it does it, all that, give you a personalized demo. Just fill this form in. All of that can be done here from the support tab. These are numbers, email, everything is right there. And that brings us to the end, and this would be question time. Firoz asks us if he can set up our native corporate application. Well, Firoz, if for what? I'm thinking you're asking this for single sign-on, and if you are, then Okay, sure. I'll be interested in talking to you. We'll be happy to see what we can do about that. Do you know if this uses SAML 2.0? If the application, whatever the application is, if the application does run on SAML 2.0, then yes, we do have an option where you can put that in. Please do. Please check and let us know, and we'll definitely talk about putting that into AD Self Service Plus. Feroz, and for the rest of you guys, this is my email. If you have any questions, need personal attention, this is my email. Please write it down. It's sreejith.k, sreejith.k@manageengine.com, or you can directly email our support team. That's support@adselfserviceplus.com. We have an excellent support staff who'll be happy to help you out. Or you can email me directly. I'll be more than happy to help. And I'll be happy to take care of it. Jeremy says thank you. Jeremy, thank you. And the rest of you guys, thank you. And one more thing. We would love to hear from you on how we did today and what are the other topics you'd like us to cover in the upcoming webinars. So if you just take a minute to let us know, that'd be great. And guys, thank you so much for accommodating us into your schedule today. With that, it's Sri signing off from the AD Self Service Plus team. Thank you so much, guys. Much appreciated. It's Srijit over and out. And just take care. Thank you, Andy Evo.